is it so simple that even with we're losing 2-time everything Jag plus Stetson Bennett. We're saying goodbye to a couple offensive linemen. We're obviously saying goodbye to Jalen Carter. Given what is coming back, something that we discussed in the reaction pod on Monday night, does every way too early top 25 list need to start with Georgia?
No, Georgia's probably going to be 7-5 or 6-6 next year.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Let's go.
Who was out here with these? Who fueled the no one was doubting, no one believed in us narrative?
Kirby's making deep fakes. Like, he's got the video team. That's what those analysts are. They're making deep fakes of every single analyst on ESPN, CBS Sports HQ. Got us all out here saying, "Oh, Georgia's probably not even going to get to a bowl game next year." It's all Kirby doing impressions.
Tom's right. So Kirby was on one of those Saban staffs that made the fake articles before that one title game. Like that, Bama did this before,
Seriously?
and Kirby was on that.
Yes.
Yeah, seriously.
Did y'all know this story?
Yeah.
Yes,
they definitely did.
Oh wow!
They will use anything.
That's an old trick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want somebody to create some like Kirby video with him like in a mustache and glasses and like him just trashing the team, saying, "I think they'll be 7-5." They absolutely would do something like that. And maybe, I know like in years past, I've been some people told me that my tweets have been used to fuel Bama, in years past. And I guarantee you they come up with a list of tweets. And I don't think players know who half the analysts are, if they're real, fake, or not. All you got to do is find some tweet. And now it's easier than ever with a blue check mark. I know it wasn't then, but they'll create a tweet and say, "Man, these dogs are going to be awful next year, replacing 5, defensive first rounders. They're probably going to be 7-5. Bam, throw it up there. They don't care who the tweet is from. I also think there's a chance, man, maybe he just went to like some Russian bot army and created them just to troll every single player throughout the season. You guys suck. You guys are 7-5.
I mean, if he did it, he should. I mean, as nervous as Kirby Smart sounds right now about this team getting too high on his horse and the stuff he was saying, he was like, I think that winning it this year after losing all those guys is actually easier than winning it next year, because all these guys are going to be back and not have that same hunger and fire that they had before. What did he call it? The entitlement disease. Like he better fire up that bot army to be able to just pepper these guys with tweets all through the offseason that they can't go and do it and that they're just not good enough. Because, I mean, on my top I haven't nailed out every single position right now. I've got it in tiers 1 through 4 to 5, 10, 11, 14, 15, 17, 18, 24, and the like. But Georgia's my number one.
Georgia is a tier unto itself, right?
Yes.
Like there is nobody else
into next season.
Yes. Because look, like Stetson Bennett was a really good college player, but a lot of quarterbacks would have still won the national title for Georgia. Okay. There's like, how many guys in our top 25 we're about to drop here do you think Georgia also would have won the title with? Because I think it's probably like 10 or 12. Okay. That is the reason I think, like, one of the reasons it's so hard to go back to back to back is because eventually you lose that quarterback who's like a first round pick, Stetson is a really good college player, but he's not irreplaceable talent-wise. And it's Georgia. This very well could be the best Georgia team coming up with the level they recruited. They had 4 freshmen on the field for the last drive against Ohio State. Like they relied on a lot of young guys. They're going to fix their receiver problem, if you want to call it a problem. They just went to the portal to get the leading receiver in the SEC. They just took from Missouri, and they also got Ra Thomas from Mississippi State. I think Carson Beck will be more than capable for them. And if they didn't think he was, they'd go out and get a portal quarterback. They also have some other options behind him. I think they're a tier unto themselves until proven otherwise.
That's where I think they've taken over the mantle from Bama, because we used to talk about them that way. And Bama has to kind of show us that they're back in there. They might say, hey, we're there too. The great part about this, we're about to find out what life after Stetson Bennett is like, right? Because I did see some people pushing back. We did the how many teams would trade for Stetson Bennett. I agree with everything you're saying, Bud. They will have a more talented quarterback. Jake Fromm was like, he was just a guy too, and he had 3 picks against South Carolina. And even if it's a first-year starter, there's some experience factor. Like, do you have a game where you just lay an egg that could cost your team? I think that's there. The reason I think they should be on a tier all by themselves, how about the schedule? I mean, I sent out a thing earlier this year. It was like Georgia will have the easiest road to back-to-back championships of anybody. And I might follow it up, retweet it, and say the easiest road to a three-peat, especially considering what's happening at Florida, what's happening at some of these others. Kentucky wasn't that great this year. Ole Miss, one of their crossover games, like who knows how good they really are after limping into the finish of the season. No Oklahoma, that game canceled, so their non-conference is a complete cakewalk. Like Tennessee and Knoxville, that's going to be their kind of one big game in the regular season again.
They're number one.
Oh.
They're going to be number one,
Yeah.
and they'll be number one next season. But going back to the replacing Stetson thing, here's an interesting question I have for you guys because you brought up Jake Fromm, Danny. Jake Fromm went in the 5th round, pick 167 to the Buffalo Bills. Does Stetson Bennett get drafted before that or after that?
Before.
I think after.
I think
You think before?
Yeah.
I think that he's going to get into those interviews and the teams are going to really like him. And I also think he's going to test better, like athletically, than most people understand, because we've talked about it. One of the reasons Georgia is where Georgia is right now is because of its development. It's not just getting the talent, it is developing it, both mentally and physically. Stetson Bennett has developed physically alongside every single other player on that roster. He's not the same kid he was coming out of high school. He's not the walk-on. You could talk about his size, but Bryce Young is no bigger than he is, and Bryce Young might be the first pick in the draft. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think that his ability, his mobility, his decision-making, his athleticism, his intangibles, I think somebody is going to fall in love with him.
So
I actually have a bet on this, on what he will run at the combine. At Under Armour, I was talking to some of our Georgia guys, and I won't name who, but he's like, all right, Stetson is going to run under a 4.6.
Yeah.
I was like,
come on, no chance at the combine. Maybe at his pro day, zero chance at the combine.
So I have 4.61 or worse.
Can I get on that with you?
When you see him, like when he took off when he takes off in game, that dude is fast. He's faster than most of the other guys on the field.
Well, I know he can go. I mean, clearly, like he's not going to run a 4.9, but like he can really go. But 4.6 on the actual
4.6 might be a bit much. Yeah,
fast. Like that's like these guys that move to receiver,
So I've got Stetson Bennett going earlier than Jake Fromm, and the reason is because of Todd Monken. I think that Todd Monken is going to prepare him for those interviews because Georgia runs an NFL defense. And to use Kirby Smart's own words, is like, now when Stetson goes to the NFL, he's not going to be talking like, quote, he's got marbles in his mouth. Like he's going to come out there and he's going to have a full command of all of these pro concepts. When you combine with his record as a starting quarterback, I can't say what he's going to run. I don't have the good eye for. I don't know why I don't have a good eye for athleticism, being such an elite athlete myself. But I do think that for what we've heard from Georgia's coaches and from people around the Georgia program, like he's going to be able to impress NFL coaches with his understanding of NFL concepts from running an NFL offense. I think he goes earlier than Jake Fromm.